how to deal with past trauma or traumatic situations while going through the recovery journey. A lot of people that are going through the anxiety recovery journey may have experienced some trauma in their past, or they might have fallen into this because of a traumatic situation. And a lot of times I see when people are on the recovery journey is that they talk about their traumas as a hindrance for the recovery journey. Well, in this video, I want to share with you, does trauma hold you back from recovery? Is trauma something you need to address? I have always hesitated making videos on this because I personally find that this kind of video can be very confronting. And so my recommendation is that if you're new to the channel, this is probably not one of the first videos you want to see of mine. I think it's very important for you to focus on understanding what's going on and what to do to overcome this. But this video is going to be very confronting. It's going to be surfacing up some things that I think can trigger a lot of people. But again, in this channel, we don't focus on avoiding triggers. In fact, we face our triggers, learn how to respond to them, and break through them so that we don't have triggers. But somebody who's not ready to have that conversation, this kind of topic, surfacing a lot of things I'm going to be mentioning, can be kind of confronting, and people can respond with almost a pain body attack where, you know, they can be very upset about this. So I just wanted to let you know about that before proceeding with this video, because like I say, there's going to be some things that might trigger you a little bit. But again, the key is really asking yourself, are you truly committed to overcoming this? And if so, you might surface some things that you don't like. You might surface some things that are bottled up that doesn't want to be released yet. Are you interested in confronting those things so that you can get to your ultimate goal, which is going back to living, no longer dealing with this, and just improving your quality of life? So that's something I wanted to mention before starting this video. I hope you enjoy. So as always, I'm not going to be talking about the mechanics of anxiety, how to overcome it. I've made several videos on that. I also have a desensitization blueprint. There's also a bunch of other resources down below, including success stories. You can apply for mentorship. There's a free book as well. There's a bunch of stuff to help you start your journey. In this video, I'm going to be talking about this idea of trauma and you having something that's happened in your past that you feel is hindering you from the recovery journey. Now, the reason why I don't talk too much about trauma on this channel, I really reserve that stuff for conversations within the mentorship, is because my perspective of trauma is very different from mainstream. This isn't just with anxiety sufferers, but just in general, in terms of what society talks about in terms of trauma. To be honest with you, from my perspective, the word trauma is almost like the new buzzword nowadays. People talking about being traumatized, people experiencing trauma, people talking about how they can't get certain things in life because of traumatic situations that they've experienced. Now, in this video, I'm never going to downplay your traumas or say it's not important. But what I'm really going to be discussing is, do these traumas hold you back from anxiety recovery? Do these traumas prevent you from long-term freedom? Can you have an enriching, fulfilling life even though you've gone through these traumas? I want you to understand that the word trauma is a very loose word, very similar to anxiety. What is trauma? How do you define trauma? What's the difference between having trauma and being traumatized? Much like anxiety, we have to be very clear on how we're defining trauma. Traumatization, I would say, is you experience a traumatic situation and it caused your nervous system to become dysregulated. The trauma was so overwhelming that your nervous system became very sensitive as a consequence. So what are my thoughts on trauma, and does it prevent you from overcoming these symptoms, going back to living? The answer is no. There is no situation in my perspective that will prevent you from overcoming this and going back to living. I want you to understand something, and again, this can be very confronting. Everyone on this planet has been in a situation where they've gotten the short end of the stick, where they were taken advantage of, where something didn't go their way, where there was some malicious intent and they were the victim of it. Everybody to some degree will experience that. Now, what normally surfaces up is, yes, but Shaan, what I experienced was absolutely horrendous, People don't experience what I experienced. This is a very unique situation. And I understand it. And I know there are people out there, there's even people in the mentorship that have gone through terrible things in their past. But my follow-up question is always the same. Okay, what happened to you was absolutely terrible. It shouldn't have happened. But now what? What do we do? Do we use this experience as a wound, almost like a scar, or do we use this as a source of wisdom? Do you want to become wise from this experience, or do you want to feel wounded? See, the problem is, I think with society is that with these traumas, people wear it like a badge. They almost use their trauma as a source for not being able to do certain things. And if you don't believe me, go look on any anxiety forum. Share what you're experiencing, and you will often find people talking about how they've experienced what you've experienced even longer, how their life has been so bad, how all these things have happened to them. Not solution oriented, always focusing on why this has wounded them. Now I want you to understand whatever's happened to you, whether you want it to be a wound or what Claire Weeks says, your staff of wisdom, it's always a choice. Regardless of what's happened to you, you can't change that in the past. But now what do? Do you wallow in what happened and still suffer what happened to you a year ago, 2 years ago, you falling into the cycle, whatever has happened in the past? Or do you acknowledge and accept what's happened and decide to move forward? If you notice that accepting and moving forward is not very different from accepting and moving forward with a lot of the anxiety-based symptoms you have. But this doesn't just apply to your symptoms, this also applies to the past. Whatever has happened to you, whatever source of pain has happened to you, it should make you more wise. It should become your staff of wisdom. It should be your platform moving forward. We've had members in the past in the mentorship that have gone through horrendous trauma, overcame them, and back to living and having great lives. Even if you've suffered with the most horrendous things that have happened in the past, that should make you the most wisest person. You should wise up faster than anybody else. In fact, if you've gone through a certain pain, from my perspective, once you wise up from it, you would never want that to happen to anybody. And this is exactly what the mentors do. They struggled with debilitating anxiety, and when they went through that pain, they used that as a staff of wisdom, and they wanted to ensure that it doesn't happen to others. But how do most people react? They use it as a badge. They use it as an identity. And the problem is that when people say drop the identity, it's almost like they're downplaying what they went through. But it's not downplaying. It's at the end of the day recognizing that it's a choice of what do you do moving forward? It's always a choice. It's always a decision. And part of it is accepting what happened in the past, recognizing that everyone's definition or experience of trauma will be a little bit different, but recognizing whatever's happened in your past has happened, and recognizing the only thing you can focus on is right now, and using that as your source of wisdom moving forward. Again, a big part of this is making that decision. You have had bad things happen in your life. You've had good things happen in your life. Are you going to focus on identifying only the bad things, the most traumatic situation that's happened? Or are you going to let go of that identity and choose where you want to go moving forward? This is a very confronting thing, and I'm not saying it's easy, and in fact, it can be very uncomfortable. When we talk about anxiety recovery, we talk about the fact that it is not comfortable. If you are seeking anxiety recovery in search of comfort, that's not enough of a reason. Yes, do you overcome this in the future? Yes. But that's not the goal. It's about facing a lot of these things that are confronting, that can feel very uncomfortable, and accepting a lot of things that people just don't want to do. And quite honestly, it is easier to be the victim. I've had conversations with this with my mentors, not about anxiety recovery, but just in life. And we always discuss about how the fact of being the victim oftentimes feels really good. People like feeling like being the victim. I know that's not very logical, but when you work with people and you see people holding on to their victim identity, you ask, why are they doing that? And honestly, for a lot of people, it feels good. It feels good at being the effect of something. It feels good recognizing that what happened to you wasn't your fault and that you were at the effect and you had nothing to do with it. It also feels good knowing that you don't technically have responsibility to fix it. And if you're the victim, you dissolve all responsibility. So it's about acknowledging what happened. It's about taking responsibility of the fact that moving forward, it's always a choice. Whatever happened, happened. Not assigning blame, not assigning judgment. What happened has happened. And deciding for yourself, are you going to use this again as a source of wisdom, or are you going to use this as a wound? Are you going to use this as a cut or a bruise? Are you going to look at this as a handicap? I promise you, there are people out there that have had terrible things happen, and they still decided to use it as a source of wisdom and move forward. I know it's easier said than done, but if it can be said, it can be done. And if I have to be fully honest, helping people around the world, if I have to be very frank about this, looking at trauma as a way of holding you back is no different to me than just finding other ways for why you're unique, why you are different, why you are the snowflake. It's just that identity that somehow this isn't going to work for you. Whether you've had a traumatic situation or not, people are always trying to find ways for why they're the unique one. And I've been doing this for way too long for me to think that anybody is unique or a special snowflake. I hope this video helps. Like I said, there's a bunch of resources down below. If you are okay with confrontational conversations like this and you want to apply for mentorship and focus on overcoming this, the link for that is below as well. I wish you the best. I'll see you in the next video.